So, for decades, the Middle East has lived on the edge of a knife, a region where tension never truly disappears, only shifts, evolves, waits. Generations have grown up under the shadow of sirens, under skies that could turn hostile without warning. Analysts have long said that a direct confrontation between Iran and Israel would be the one line no one would dare to cross. Proxy wars? Yes. Cyber attacks? Constantly. Covert operations? Almost routine. But a full-scale direct missile strike? That was always considered the red line, the moment that would change everything, the moment that could ignite something far bigger than anyone could control. And for years, that line held. Until now. Because today, everything has changed. Reports are flooding in, fragmented, chaotic, terrifying. Iran has launched what appears to be a massive missile strike, not symbolic, not limited, but large-scale, coordinated, intentional. And Israel is now facing a situation that could spiral into unprecedented chaos. What you're about to hear is not just another breaking story, it's the beginning of something that could reshape the balance of power in the entire world. In the early hours of the morning, when most of the world was asleep, families in southern Israel were jolted awake, not by alarms at first, but by something deeper. A distant rumble, a vibration in the ground, the kind of sound that doesn't register immediately as danger, until it does. A mother in Ashkelon later described how her child asked if it was thunder. She didn't answer, because she already knew. Seconds later, the sirens began. Not one, not two, but a wave of them. Layered, overlapping, screaming across cities and towns. People ran, barefoot, half asleep, grabbing whatever they could, children, phones, a single bag, down stairwells, into shelters, into reinforced rooms that suddenly felt too small, too fragile. And then came the explosions, not isolated blasts, but a pattern, a sequence, boom, 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 each one closer, each one heavier, windows shattered, car alarms screamed, and then silence. That eerie, suffocating silence that follows destruction. In that silence, people waited, counting seconds, wondering if the next wave was already on its way. At the same time, hundreds of kilometers away, inside command centers, Israeli defense operators were watching something they had feared for years. Radar screens lighting up, not with one or two incoming objects, but dozens, then more. A swarm, ballistic missiles, possibly cruise missiles, the kind designed not just to strike, but to overwhelm. Systems were activated instantly. Interceptors launched into the sky. Trails of light cutting through darkness. Each one a race against time. Each one a calculation. Trajectory, speed, impact zone. But here's the problem. Even the most advanced defense systems have limits. They are designed for scenarios, for probabilities, not for saturation. And what unfolded in those minutes was exactly that. A saturation event. Too many targets, too little time. But here's what most mainstream coverage isn't telling you. Or at least not emphasizing. The scale of this strike suggests planning on a level far beyond a simple retaliation. This wasn't random. This wasn't emotional. This was strategic, carefully timed, carefully executed, and possibly coordinated with multiple layers: cyber interference, electronic warfare, and even regional proxy positioning. Some reports suggest communication disruptions in certain areas. Others hint at delays in early warning systems. Whether that's confirmed or not, one thing is clear. This operation was designed to test, and possibly break, Israel's defensive ceiling. Let's break this down. Militarily, a massive missile strike isn't just about numbers. It's about composition. Ballistic missiles travel at high speeds, often exiting the atmosphere before re-entering at extreme velocity. They are difficult to intercept and even harder when launched in clusters. Cruise missiles, on the other hand, fly lower, maneuvering around terrain, making them harder to detect. If both were used simultaneously, and early indicators suggest that may be the case, Then this wasn't just an attack, it was a layered assault designed to exploit every vulnerability. Now add drones into the mix, cheap, numerous, and capable of confusing radar systems, and you begin to understand the complexity of what Israel may be facing right now. Numbers matter here. Even a few dozen missiles can cause significant damage, but when you start talking about potentially hundreds, launched in waves, the equation changes entirely. Interceptor systems, like any resource, are finite. Each interception costs money, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars per missile. Now multiply that by the scale of this attack. You're looking at millions, possibly billions, burned in minutes. And that's not even accounting for infrastructure damage, economic disruption, and the psychological toll on civilians. Zoom out for a second, because this didn't happen in isolation. The roots of this moment go back years, decades even, from regional conflicts in Iraq and Syria, to escalating tensions in Lebanon, to covert operations that never made headlines. Sanctions, assassinations, cyber warfare, it's all part of a long, slow build, each side testing limits, each side sending signals. And now it seems those signals have turned into action, direct action, the kind that shifts doctrines. The kind that forces allies to make decisions they've been avoiding. And that brings us to the global context, because when something like this happens, the world doesn't just watch, it reacts. Quietly at first. Emergency meetings, closed-door discussions, military assets repositioned, naval fleets moving just a little closer, air bases on higher alert, allies begin to calculate their involvement, not just politically, but militarily. Because a strike of this magnitude doesn't just threaten one country, it destabilizes an entire region. Oil markets begin to tremble, trade routes suddenly look vulnerable, insurance costs spike, investors panic, and somewhere in all of this, ordinary people, millions of them, are caught in the uncertainty. But here's where things get even more serious: escalation. Because history has shown us one thing very clearly. Large-scale attacks rarely exist in isolation. They trigger responses, sometimes immediate, sometimes delayed, but always calculated. Israel now faces a critical decision: respond and risk a wider war, or hold back and risk appearing vulnerable. Neither option is simple, neither option is without consequences. And on the other side, Iran, or any actor involved in this strike, has already crossed a threshold, which means the next move could be even bigger. Imagine this scenario: retaliatory strikes, not just symbolic, but targeted, military bases, strategic infrastructure, then counter-retaliation, then involvement from regional actors, groups aligned on either side. Suddenly, what began as a missile strike turns into a multi-front conflict. Northern borders heat up. Maritime routes become contested. Airspace becomes crowded with surveillance, drones, fighters. And in the background, global powers are watching, calculating, deciding how far they're willing to go. And let's talk about the human side again, because it's easy to get lost in strategy and numbers. In a hospital in Tel Aviv, doctors are already preparing for casualties. Emergency rooms shifting into crisis mode, blood units being organized, surge teams called in. Meanwhile, in another part of the region, families are glued to screens, trying to reach loved ones, messages that don't go through, calls that don't connect. That moment of uncertainty, that's where the real impact is felt, not in headlines, but in silence, in waiting. There's also something else happening, something less visible, but equally important: information control. In moments like these, narratives are shaped fast, footage is selected, angles are framed, certain details are amplified, others minimized. And for the average viewer, it becomes incredibly difficult to separate raw reality from curated perception. That's why it's important to step back and ask, what are we not being shown? What details are still emerging? And who benefits from controlling the narrative in these first critical hours? Because make no mistake, this is not just a military event, It's an information battle, a psychological one. The images, the videos, the statements, they all play a role in shaping public perception, both domestically and globally. And perception, in times like these, can influence decisions at the highest levels. So where does this go next? That's the question no one can answer with certainty, but we can outline possibilities. Limited retaliation, followed by de-escalation, unlikely but possible. Sustained exchange of strikes, more likely. Full regional war, still avoidable, but no longer unthinkable. And in the worst-case scenario, something that pulls in global powers, turning a regional conflict into something far more dangerous. And that's where we are right now. At a crossroads, a moment where decisions made in the next hours, days, even minutes could shape the trajectory of an entire region for years to come. This isn't just another headline, it's a turning point, a shift in the rules of engagement, a signal that the lines that once held may no longer exist. So ask yourself this: how did we get here? Was this inevitable, or could it have been prevented? And more importantly, what happens if this is just the beginning? Because if one thing is certain, it's this: the world is watching, closely, quietly, and waiting to see what comes next. If you want real, unfiltered breakdowns of events like this, beyond headlines, beyond surface-level reporting, make sure you stay connected. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe, not just to follow the news, but to understand it. Because in moments like these, understanding isn't optional, it's everything.